He was like, I'm sad. We were like, why are you feeling sad? And he said, because I want to go in the car. So it was quite a nice moment to be like, like all the work we're putting in, we can actually see it helping.
He said, you're joking. And the fact that he said that, almost severe autistic, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm teaching a third skill in here.
Imagine being chased by a dog. If I said, what's 2 + 2? And I'm like, I don't want to hear anyone's teaching me something that I don't want to know at that moment.
I think we just need to think outside the box because, freezing ice and smashing that isn't a norm. We need to be creative and think of these different strategies and try them.
As a dietitian, I've never came across of this opportunity before where I'm able to work with children with learning disabilities in a care home setting.
For me, it's that genuine relationship that's built with that young person where I really, really do care about them. I look forward to seeing them and I feel really proud.
So it's not often that we get the opportunity to sit down and think and reflect together about the work that we do at SuperCare and why we're at SuperCare, why it's important to have psychology, occupational therapy, dietitians, behaviour specialists. So it would be really good for us to take this opportunity to speak to each other and talk to camera a little bit about what we do as a role, who we are, and why we do the work we do at SuperCare. So do you want to start, Ioana?
Oh, yes. So I'm board certified behavior analyst, and I've been with SuperCare for quite a few months now. And I think my role is, I'm not going to say mandatory, but it's very useful because we have lots of incidents in these settings. We have autistic, mainly diagnosed, and these people haven't learned many skills in the past. They haven't learned how to communicate. They haven't learned how to meet their own needs. And most of their language is aggression, especially if they haven't had any interventions in the past. So my role at SuperCare is to run assessments, look at all those incidents, understand how the behavior flows, what's causing the incidents, what are the triggers, how people are responding to them, what's reinforcing the behaviors, and then write a behavior plan so everyone understands all those findings, and set targets, and will include emotional regulation, meeting sensory needs, and then most important, teaching skills, because these people don't have any other means of meeting those needs. So teaching skills will give them that opportunity.
Strikes me also that behaviour is always a communication.
Yes.
And one discipline that we also have within SuperCare is speech and language therapy, and we don't actually have them represented here today. So to just keep that in mind as well. Zainab, you're a dietitian.
Yeah, so I'm a dietitian at SuperCare. So with Ioana, I do work with Ioana with behaviour therapy as well, mainly with autistic kids. As we know, autistic kids prefer routine and they have sensory issues as well and sensory needs. So dietary is a very key factor and oftentimes it's always overlooked. When you see a population of autistic kids, the main problem is nutrition deficiencies. So, stunted heights, developmental issues. This is basically caused by the sensory issues. For example, some kids who are autistic, they might not like crisps or they might not like liquidy stuff. So they will stick to a bland diet. And so this is where I come in. I work for Ioana and we do a way of accepting and rejecting food. So we go through a list and we try to introduce new foods to the child, but in a gradual way, but at the same time, not overwhelming them. Also, one more thing I want to add, that I also monitor the growth of the child. So often you don't see a lot of professionals, health professionals, might not have the skills that I have. I mean, I was trained up for this specific role to monitor the child's growth while they are in our care. Often this is always overlooked, to maintain puberty. So this is where I make sure that the supplements are given, prescribed, GPs are spoken to, and if there's any external dietitians, I go to them and I liaise with them as well.
So Zainab, I'm really curious, as a psychologist, I obviously focus on the emotional well-being of young people, but I know yourself and I have also collaborated on some work. And so how do you think psychology and dietetics can work together in a children's?
Yeah, psychology is very important as well, because some children might have trauma due to their diet. So parental neglect can cause trauma, and this is where Laurie and I come in. So she can do CBT therapy. So they talk about the diet or they talk about the trauma and they try to open up, and then I come in and we do a similar intervention that I do with Ioana. helping them explore a range of diets and putting them a routine in place.
So one of the things that that we've started talking about is about sensory needs, and how our young people often come into care with quite significant sensory needs that may or may not have been well met before, but there's something about your role, Claire, that means that you really understand the sensory needs and try and put in place quite a lot of means to meet those sensory needs through our coaches and through the environments that we have. Do you want to say a little bit about your work?
Yeah, so I'm the occupational therapist and sensory integration practitioner. So we focus a lot on the sensory side of the children's needs, because a lot of their emotional dysregulation is relating to their sensory needs. We start off by assessing the children and getting to know them, spending time with them, and then creating goals and interventions in collaboration with the children and with maybe parents or caregivers, with the coaches in the house. The sort of things that we can support with are sensory regulation. So we would look at maybe their proprioceptive input. So that could be something like they would, if they're dysregulated, something like swimming could help them regulate their sensory system. There are activities relating to movement. Some children need to move around quite a lot. That would mean that they have an overreactive sensory system. So they might need a lot of movement. Other children might be underreactive and prefer to stay still. So for those children, you would find more activities where they might be based sitting on the floor, maybe doing puzzles or reading books. The children that like to be active, we might take them to swimming or playing sports, or maybe a bit of yoga. So we use weighted blankets as a strategy to help with self-regulation. Weighted blankets can give you the deep pressure feedback that helps your sensory system calm. It helps you regulate. It helps you manage your executive functioning for the daily activities. And then, aside from the sensory aspect of occupational therapy, we also look at independent skills. So that would relate to Zainab's dietetics, where we would look at motor skills for cooking, for preparing food, while Zainab looks at the health side of it. I'll look at the motor side of it.
And I also do the meal planning as well.
Yeah.
And I sometimes also try my best to, if the child is able to do it, I try to introduce some small cooking classes just for them to learn more skills. I can give them a quick recipe that's also nutritionally valuable for them and healthy for them. I found a way for them to meet the five a day.
And there are children that are tactile defensive, so that could mean that they are defensive to certain textures of foods. So we could do activities such as fun with food, where they can just explore it with their hands. They can do a bit of messy play. They can maybe make some cakes, and there's no expectation to eat it. There's no expectation to touch it, but it just gives them that experience of exploring these new foods that they might not have had before.
Amazing.
You don't have nearly that much fun in psychology.
Speak for yourself. Occupational therapy is I'd say it's quite fun, apart from the the report writing side of it. But the actual interventions are quite fun, because they can be play based, they can be activity based. You can it's fun to go out with the children, to see them in the community, to see what they like doing, and yeah.
I was remembering a time when you and I accompanied you to do one of your movement assessments, and getting involved with that as well. Can you say a little bit about the use of sort of movement and how important it is for our young people?
So one of the assessments we do is called the Movement ABC assessment. That involves looking at the child's manual dexterity, so their handwriting, their throwing and catching, and then it looks at the gross motor skills, where we have balancing, hopping on one foot, just to see how their movement has developed, because movement can relate to sensory needs as well. When we look at body awareness, sometimes children with sensory processing difficulties are unaware of where their body is in space, so they might feel very unbalanced, they might be clumsy, and the Movement ABC will just give us that extra assessment and knowledge of the child's movements and abilities. It helps us put relevant targets and interventions in place for that child to help them improve their skills and daily living. In addition to supporting the children with their sensory needs, Chelsea and we also support the children with zones of regulation. So that's in relation to their emotional regulation. Zones of regulation is a curriculum that we follow, and there's session plans, so it's a standardised curriculum, and it looks at different emotions of how the children are feeling. So we'll have like the blue zone, the green zone, the yellow zone and the red zone. And Chelsea and I support the children to understand what those zones mean and why they might be feeling those emotions. We always let the children know that it's okay to feel any emotion. It's okay to be angry in the red zone. Everybody gets angry. And it's just getting the children to understand that it's okay to feel like that. And then we'll incorporate strategies, either sensory strategies. We would introduce a sensory toolbox. We would provide training for the staff. And then evaluate and assess as we go to make sure the children are learning the right interventions.
I've really enjoyed it actually working with you because we got a bit creative. Was it last week? I think we got quite creative. Yeah. We incorporated Pokemon. Yeah, your favourite?
Oh, I like Pokemon, you know.
Yeah, we had a young person
Pokemon.
that just wasn't wanting to engage in the kind of standard zones of regulation curriculum. So we've added in some Pokemon.
Yeah, try and make it more personal, more meaningful to them. See if they can identify the different emotions in each Pokemon and see if they can relate that to themselves. And it's always fun making the resources for these kinds of things because it takes hours, but it's so much fun doing the arts and crafts
Even
for
with
it.
my bad cutting skills.
That's actually a very smart idea. Oh, I do like
And
that.
I find that when I'm teaching emotional regulation, because it's part of my role as well, I try to do it in a natural environment setting. Sometimes you have to sit down and show a video and they describe how that person is feeling. But then if that person is excited, oh, you're excited now. Yeah, I'm excited for you. Or I got very excited because, I got a present for my birthday and I really love that present. But equally, I was all late for this session and I thought I'm going to miss this session. I was so frustrated or anxious. And I try to act it out a bit more so then they feel it, because if we just show subtle emotion, they're not going to pick up on it. So yeah, I find it's fun to act out. I was working with this particular kid and I said, guess what? What? I saw a dog chasing me earlier and I got so scared that he was like, oh no, because I was teaching communication at the same time and I was playing ping pong. Guess what? And he had to say what? And then he'll say, oh no, or that's great. If there's something bad, he will reply. So I was teaching 3 skills in one, just through a small chat about my experience. And he loved it because he could see sometimes I will act and he'll actually call me out like, you're joking. And the fact that he said that, almost severe autistic child, he said, you're joking. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm teaching a 3rd skill in here because this kid is picking up when somebody's joking. So he started questioning what the other people are telling him because, they don't lie and they assume no one lies to them. And yeah, that was quite interesting.
Just reminds me of a young person that Chelsea and I have done some work with, and with zones of regulation, and we've had to really break down the curriculum because it's a standard curriculum. It doesn't always work for everybody. So we have a non-verbal young person who's needed it broken down. We've needed to do symbols rather than pictures of people's faces. We've had to break down the amount that we're showing him. So we've taught him 8 emotions at the moment. To see him using those emotions and understanding what those emotions mean has just been such an amazing achievement for us, I think. And it's so good to see that he's able to indicate that he's getting frustrated, or that he's happy, or he's getting tired. And yeah,
he actually said the other day to us when we went to visit him, I think he said he was like, I'm sad. And we were like, oh, why are you feeling sad? And he said, because I want to get in the car.
Yeah.
So it was quite a nice moment to be like, like all the work we're putting in, we can actually see it helping a young person, which is lovely.
It's really useful one-on-one, and it's really useful 2-on-1. But I also think with something like the zones of regulation, it's really important for the staff to think about when young people are most receptive to learning experiences. You're talking about a time, Ioana, when the young person was calm and engaged, and there are times when they're more heightened at a different colour stage on the zones of regulation. And I was struck, Laurie, that we were chatting earlier about when young people can process information and what space they need to be in, and when they're in the sort of fight or flight mode, when they can, that's not the time to learn something new, to think about bringing that little bit of reflection into this space as well.
Yeah, so I guess we were talking about the models that inform our practice as psychologists, and a model that I love to lean on is the neurosequential model by Dr. Bruce Perry. And essentially the idea of this model is that the brain develops in a sequential way. So It starts with the brainstem, which is our survival brain, where we might see our fight or flight mode activated. Then the next part of our brain that develops is our limbic system, where our emotions are kind of centered. So our amygdala is in this part of the brain. So this is our emotional brain. And then at the front, in our prefrontal cortex, is our thinking brain. And so I guess we were reflecting on the fact that when a child isn't in their thinking brain, when they are in their emotional brain or their survival brain, oftentimes as adults we might try and reason with that child. Please stop this behaviour, let's do something different instead. And sometimes that can be effective, but actually when a child is so dysregulated, they can't access their thinking brain, they can't listen to what you're trying to communicate in order to put those strategies in place. And this model gives real clear guidance on how you can respond to a child depending on their brain state. So when a child is in their survival brain, the idea is to first regulate the child. And I'll come to yourself in a second, Claire, as the occupational therapist, but we think a little bit about how we regulate a child on a physiological level. And then when the child is in their emotional brain, that's when we relate to the child. So we let the child know that they're safe, they are loved, they're held in mind, and we're there for them. And then finally, when the child is in their thinking brain, that's when we can reason with them to say, okay, let's reflect on the behaviour, let's reflect on the challenge. What could we do differently next time?
The example that you gave of being chased by a dog and the young person being able to take that on, was that a joke or was that real? Or they're in their thinking brain at that point of time, and that's a great opportunity for them to learn.
So that's when I explained what I was doing to calm myself from the dog, and I was trying to just get away, and I was breathing heavily in and out, and I was trying to count on the fingers. So basically, everything we want them to do when we try to regulate them down has to be done when they're in their thinking brains. So we keep practicing those breathing in, breathing out, or counting on the fingers, or whatever mindfulness techniques we are using, or squeezing a ball. He's not going to be able to start squeezing a ball for the first time ever or when he's in the red zone. But we need to do all this teaching when they're in the green zone. And then they have to be mastered before we prompt them to engage in this when they're dysregulated.
I like your example, by the way. Ioana always tells the adults around us who may not be able to understand the concept. She uses the example of, imagine being chased by a dog and someone's lecturing you at the same time. So if I said, what's 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 is 4. And I'm like, I don't want to hear anyone saying to me, teaching me something that I don't want to know at that moment, because I'm on a survival mode. That makes sense?
Yes, or just if I'm running and somebody is asking me, oh, Ioana, remember to breathe in and breathe out, or count on your fingers, or imagine this, or whatever techniques we're teaching, I'm not going to be able to reason with that.
Once I get to a destination that I feel safer, I'll be more calm and relaxed to process things and my emotions clearly. So that's a really good example.
I'm thinking about some of the strategies that Claire actually gave to me with a young person that we did some sessions with, and they've loved the kind of breathing in, breathing out, counting to 10. So it was really helpful.
Breathing rainbow and the 8. So you breathe in and follow the 8 round, breathe out, keep following it round, breathe in. And then by the time you get to the full 8, you've done a couple of breaths, which is really regulating. Even getting in the garden. We went for a little
I do like that.
trip in the garden to get on the trampoline.
There are lots of techniques that are useful before the kid gets into the red zone. And again, Claire is going to be more in the place to explain, but I was working with a child who could recognize when he was in the orange zone, in amber, and then he knew that he's likely to smash something, iPad, phone, or TV, because he did them in the past many times. But we taught him, when he was in the green zone, how to smash ice. And we taught him how to freeze his own ice, and we taught him where the ice lives. And then he will say, I'm orange, I need ice, I need ice. And he will go grab the ice and smash it, and then he will feel better. And that's when I was very proud of my work and of the hard work we did for years, because I worked with that child for 7 years. And we have to teach them what to do when they see themselves in the orange before they get to red.
It's making me think, It's all right to feel these things.
Mm,
We all
yeah.
feel angry at times. We all feel frustrated. It's about what we do with that.
Mm.
And it's okay. It's good that we can recognize when we're in the orange zone. But is there something in a way? And this is what parents reach out to us about actually quite a lot. You know, they're upset about the broken phones or the laptops or whatever you mentioned there. But actually, is there a different way, a more pro-social, more functional way of expressing this frustration? Because it has to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Can't always just be squeezed down
Yeah.
or calmed down. Sometimes that we do need a release. And is there a more pro-social way of doing that?
Yes, and like ripping paper, ripping cardboards, and another technique was like because this person kept grabbing us and pulling hair, so we gave him a sock, so he would just stretch that sock or like have it like stretch it in his with his teeth as well. And he felt that's better than grabbing us, and he will go for that. And he knew he's not allowed to grab us, and he didn't want to. It's just that he couldn't control himself in the past, so we kept teaching him how to channel all this energy towards neutral items that are not gonna get damaged, and he's not gonna cry after, you know, the phone or the iPad.
Another one is Laurie also taught me to do is and she often tell me as well when the child is in red zone is go outside and do a angry stomp, around the garden or in the park. Once you feel all the energy's out from that stomping, you feel better in a sense. So that's also another idea that parents can use.
I think you guys have made it really clear on strategies and how to help the young people. So I think we just need to think outside the box because freezing ice and smashing that isn't a norm. It's not something that you would necessarily go to at first. So I think from like the therapy perspective of helping, we need to be creative and think of these different strategies and try them. And
That's my favourite part.
Claire and Chelsea and Ioana, is comfort eating a sensory need as well?
I'd say it could be a sensory need. It could be a trauma response. It could be a habit. It could be environmental. So it could be a mixture of different aspects.
Also, comfort eating can be a symptom, of ADHD when you don't have enough dopamine. So then you're gonna eat to supplement that dopamine.
Because often in times I heard, including myself, if I'm having a bad day, and I just go for my favorite chocolate bar, I'm like, this is amazing. So I'm trying to escape.
It's the dopamine kick you're getting from that chocolate.
Or like a warm hug, from the chocolate sweetness. I'm like, I feel much better now. It's like a seal on the wounded heart. I'm trying to, puzzle it in if it's a sensory that I'm escaping reality. Because, like you said, going outside in the cold and wearing a jacket to escape the cold is a sensory need, right? Just think about food as well. I wonder where food comes into place. But yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, we haven't heard from Paula. Can you tell us about yourself?
The main question asker.
Yeah.
So obviously, my name's Paula. I'm part of the psychology team alongside Chelsea and Laurie. We work across the different homes, bringing psychology not just to young people or their families, but also to the coach teams, sometimes to management as well. Just thinking about how can psychology lend an ear or a perspective in best meeting the needs of our young people? And that can be all sorts of things, much like you do with Ioana with the sort of behaviour monitoring. We do quite a lot of analysis of behaviours and have a look for patterns in behaviours, what the function might be of behaviours. We look at the responses and their attachment styles, not just to their friends and their peers and their parents, but also to us within the teams as coaches and us as therapists. We might provide individual work, which is fun with young people and they're ready when it feels right. It might be support to parents that we're putting in place, and also making sense of behaviours with the pod teams. So thinking about how we best respond when a young person might be expressing some quite difficult emotions or behaviours with them, and particularly in relation to specific individuals. It might be hard to unpick that because sometimes you take it quite personally. I mean, it's important not to personalise that. And we were talking earlier about rupture and repair and the opportunities relationally to make a real difference in children's lives, and that's a little bit about the sort of stuff that we do. We also do some training just to try and help people understand the behaviours in the context of young people's histories, potentially having experienced things like trauma, loss, lots of changes for our young people who may have unfortunately had multiple placement moves before they'd come our way. So we're also dealing with, for want of a better word, that hangover. And they're, often quite young. So it's been very disrupted. And we want to try and repair where we can and making opportunities for new experiences. And that might be through laying down new templates and new relational experiences with you as the workers, the coaches around the young people.
I guess I just wanted to take a minute to reflect on the fact that we are a multidisciplinary team of different professionals that work in-house, we're integrated into the service. And this is an incredibly unique offer, and I think it's such a privilege to be able to work collectively together in the homes for the reasons that we've described, the ability to slowly build those relationships, the ability to do those on-the-spot ad hoc sessions, the ability to build relationships with the team and give our advice and recommendations when there's a sense of trust in our advice and our work as well. I think ultimately the take-home message is when you're working with young people in the care system, there's that really strong need for that relational safety, not just for the young people, but for the staff as well. And so I think having an MDT, a multidisciplinary team in-house, offers that. And this is my first experience of working in a service where we have this set up. And so just to end with some nice final reflections, we all work with young people with learning needs and neurodevelopmental differences. And I'm just curious to know what it is that you love about working with this population of young people. Paula, we'll go with you first.
And I have lots of things. I love that no 2 days are the same. I love the multi-layered ability to work with young people and their families, and they've got the parental child, an onion, exactly the onion.
Layered approach.
It's just the layered approach. With the coaches, with the management teams, I love that, and the creativity that you can bring in.
What about yourself, Chelsea?
I think we've got a great team, but just love getting together, throwing stuff around the table, thinking how can we best support this young person. And I think having us all is just, it's brilliant.
And Claire, what do you love about working with young people with this particular population?
So I think Chelsea and Paula have pretty much said everything that I was going to say. So I will go with, so within the residential setting, I think it's absolutely fantastic to have an MDT actually within the residential setting, because we don't have them time pressures of assessment and then certain amount of interventions and then discharge, because the children are with us for as long as they're going to be with us. So the interventions can be tailored to meet their needs. They don't have to be every week. If the child isn't up for it, we can just do it another day, do it the next week. And I like the flexibility of that for the children to have, so they can have the autonomy of planning and booking their sessions with us.
How about you, Zainab?
So yeah, I'm going to say what Claire said. As a dietitian, I've never came across of this opportunity before where I'm able to work with children with learning disabilities in a care home setting. And the privilege in that is it's a nice way to build a nice rapport with them. It's not like the NHS or acute setting or community setting, where you have to see a patient within 15 minutes. So you have more flexibility to work, understand, and just see that child grow into an adult that will make you proud. You'll feel proud. I feel really proud of the kids in this company. When I first see them compared to now, I just love the results. I feel like I'm making their lives easier for them. So there's a purpose of me being in their lives, helping them, supporting them as they grow. So yeah.
And we always work in a person-centered way, don't we? And they always collaborate with us, and yes,
it's great. It's amazing. So how about you, Ioana?
Well, I find that it's a great responsibility as I'm a behavior analyst. I work with graphs, so I like looking at the chart, what was the behavior like 6 months ago, and then you put an intervention in place, and then you see how the behaviors decrease and the skill acquirement increase, and it's heartwarming, and this is what keeps you going.
For me, it is about those relationships. You know, oftentimes when you meet a young person in care for the first time, they are understandably very reluctant to trust you and get to know you. And over a period of 2-3 months, you start to see changes in when you arrive at the home, they come and hug you and they greet you. And over time, you get to learn about who they are, their interests, their values, the things that matter to them. And for me, it's that genuine relationship that's built with that young person where I really, really do care about them. I look forward to seeing them, and I feel really proud, as Zainab said, in regard to their development and the things that they're achieving whilst they're with us.